My boss's son fired me on day one. Months later, I held the key to his fall. When they marched the boss's son past the cameras in handcuffs, his designer suit looked like a costume borrowed from another life. Across the street, nursing a bitter coffee, Alex kept his gaze steady and his thoughts locked behind a tired smile. Months earlier, his world had already tasted of ashes. 42, divorced, drowning in debts large enough to echo through every sleepless night, Alex had once been the golden boy of information technology. Sharp, inventive, the mind every firm fought to hire. Now he rode a crowded subway clutching a second-hand laptop bag patched with grey duct tape, rehearsing a fragile hope. Hold this junior support job, breathe, rebuild. He arrived at the glass tower before dawn, stomach buzzing with cheap instant coffee and brazen determination. Inside, the lobby smelled of polished stone and quiet money. He waited by reception, tie crooked, resume printed on the last sheet of paper he could afford. At 8, the elevator doors slid open and out glided the prince of the building. Evan Barrett was 25 and radiant with inherited confidence. Gel-slicked hair, smile bright as a billboard, arrogance dripping like overpriced cologne. Staff straightened as he passed, offering greetings thick with caution. Alex was invisible until Evan's gaze landed on the stranger in the worn shoes. "You're the new temp?" His words sounded less like a question, more like a taunt. "Systems support," Alex answered, extending a hand. Evan didn't take it. His eyes flicked from the duct tape to the exhaustion etched around Alex's eyes, and judgment crystallized in an instant. "Human resources must be joking," he murmured, loud enough for the interns to snicker, yet soft enough to feign discretion. Turning to the floor manager, he added, "Send him home, wrong fit." The sentence sliced through Alex's chest. Security tapped his shoulder. Within minutes, he was back on the pavement, ambition still gleaming behind the lobby's glass like a paradise denied. Cold wind threaded through his coat as traffic howled by. Humiliation wasn't a quick stab. It was a slow, tightening rope. By the time Alex reached his rented studio, that rope had drawn blood. The flat was a single room cluttered with unpaid bills and relics of brighter days. An award plaque wrapped in newspaper, photos too painful to display, and an aging tower computer humming like an old friend trying to speak. Alex slumped into the creaking chair, stared at the blank monitor, and felt the day's weight settle into his bones. He could polish the resume again, chase another low-wage posting, swallow another dismissal. Or he could breathe different air. From a drawer, he drew a small black flash drive, its plastic worn smooth by years of absent-minded thumb strokes. Inside slept scripts and back doors he had penned in glory days, fragments no resume could reveal. For a long moment, he turned the drive over in his palm, listening to the radiator hiss. Curiosity, he told himself. Not revenge. Curiosity is innocent. Barrett Global's internal portal was childish in its predictability. He slid past the outer wall with a dated exploit that should have been patched years earlier. Beneath that, a sloppy permissions table opened like an unlocked diary. A grin spread across his face, the grin of a craftsman who, despite seasons of rust, feels the tool settle perfectly into his grip. He would peek, catalogue the holes, maybe even draft an anonymous tip for the security team, a twisted thank you note for the morning's humiliation. Then, buried 3 directories deep, he stumbled upon ledgers that pulsed wrongness. Vendor payments ballooning overnight, purchase orders routed to empty addresses, transfers shaving thin percentages into fog-shrouded accounts offshore. Patterns so brazen they mocked the very idea of oversight. Alex leaned back, heart pounding a heavy drumbeat against his ribs. In that instant, the rope around his neck loosened, only to be replaced by a colder, heavier chain called purpose. Curiosity had led him to the door. What waited beyond was bigger than pride or revenge. It was the truth, raw and sharp, begging for daylight. And Alex, once a golden prodigy, now a man with nothing left to lose, felt an old fire spark in the ruins of his life. He clicked save. The city's dawn cracked open like a bruised peach, leaking pale gold across Alex's blinds, but he did not notice the light. All night he had listened to the hushed whir of his tower, watching progress bars creep forward while encrypted copies of the ledgers funneled into hidden drives. By the time morningbirds began their tentative chorus, Alex's makeshift command post looked like a bunker. Sticky notes layered over printouts, circles and arrows mapping a labyrinth of deceit that stretched far beyond one spoiled heir. He stepped into the hallway, drawn by the burnt scent of instant coffee from the communal kitchen. As he passed the mail slots, a slick envelope with no return address caught his eye. Inside lay a single glossy photo. Alex leaving the glass tower after his firing, head bowed, shoulders hunched. On the back, in tidy block letters, was written one sentence: "Wrong place, wrong time, old man." A tremor rolled through his chest. Paranoia? No, proof. Someone already knew he had brushed the hornet's nest. The sensible reaction would be retreat, wipe the drives, disappear, cut his losses. Yet sensible felt like a language Alex no longer spoke. Instead, adrenaline poured through his veins, sharpening his senses until the hallway's buzzing fluorescent tube sounded like thunder. Back in the flat he paced, reading the note again, then shredding it, flushing the pieces. He stared at the mirror above the sink, unshaven jaw, purpled crescents beneath bloodshot eyes. He mouthed the words, "You wanted to see, now you cannot look away." Alex reopened the ledgers, letting his pointer hover over a line tagged Deep Haven Consulting, an innocuous vendor drawing monthly transfers large enough to buy a small island. He traced shell companies hopping continents, Panama to Zurich to the Caymans, before landing on an address in a suburb only 40 minutes away. Sweat gathered on his palms. They were laundering money practically in his backyard. He pulled on a faded hoodie, stuffed a thumb drive into his sock, and left the building, scanning the street for the parked sedan from the previous nights. It was gone. Relief slipped in, ghostlight and temporary. On the train, Alex's mind riffled through forgotten memories of corporate security handbooks, lines about physical tails, dead drops, silent alarms. He clutched his phone but kept it off. No digital footprints today. Each station announcement felt like a test of nerve. The suburb greeted him with neat lawns and maple trees boasting late-season rust. The address led to a bland office park, its directory listing Deep Haven on the second floor. Alex feigned confidence, tailgating a delivery man through the glass doors. The elevator's mirrored walls reflected a jittery stranger he barely recognized. The suite itself was smaller than expected. One receptionist desk, two closed doors. No company logo, no hum of busy phones, only quiet as thick as carpet dust. The receptionist, a woman with an expression carved from marble, looked up. "I think I'm in the wrong place," Alex muttered, retreat already forming on his tongue. "Name?" Her voice carried no accent, no warmth. He invented one on the spot, Daniel Foster, IT maintenance, but she only tilted her head, bird-like, surveying him. Then, with unnerving calm, she pressed a button beneath the desk. Somewhere, a lock disengaged. "One moment, Mr. Foster," she said, her lips barely moving. Alex's heartbeat drummed against his eardrums. He took a small step back. Another. The door behind him seemed suddenly too heavy to push open fast. A metallic click echoed from a hallway he could not see, followed by footsteps. Fight or flight, both demanded speed, and speed meant leaving questions behind. Alex spun, yanked the door, and bolted into the corridor. His shoulder slammed a fire exit bar. Cold air rushed over him as he burst outside. He sprinted across the parking lot, lungs burning, shoes slipping on gravel until he reached the far sidewalk. Only then did he glance back. No one was chasing. The office door remained closed, street placid, birds twittering in maple branches. Yet dread clung to him like wet wool. That building had not felt like an accounting front. It had felt like a trap set to measure who dared peek inside. On the ride home, he cradled the thumb drive in his sock like a talisman and plotted the next move. Police would freeze the case behind procedural ice. Corporate investigators were already compromised. He needed daylight, loud and merciless. Journalists. He recalled Cheryl King, once an investigative bulldog at a tech magazine who had interviewed him during his meteoric years. Her bylines had vanished after she exposed a data mining scandal and was blackballed for it. If anyone understood being chewed up by powerful men, it was Cheryl. Back at the flat, Alex crafted an anonymous message with a sample ledger page. Subject line, "You missed a story. Do you want it?" He scheduled it to detonate into Cheryl's inbox that evening through a chain of relays so tangled it might confuse even him later. Hours crept by. Rain glazed the window. He dozed at the desk, cheek pressed to the keyboard, until a chime jolted him awake. An encrypted reply blinked on screen. "Tell me everything." Alex's breath left in a shaky rush. The fuse was lit now, burning toward an explosion he could neither predict nor stop. He leaned back, feeling the cheap chair groan beneath him, and whispered to the empty room, "Old man, wrong place, wrong time? We'll see." Night pressed against Alex's windows like a restless animal, paws scraping glass, breath fogging the panes. Inside, the low hum of aging hard drives formed a shaky lullaby, but sleep would not come. He sat hunched over a screen filled with scrolling green code, thoughts ricocheting like marbles in a box. Cheryl King had replied twice more, firing off sharp questions. "How high does it go? Why trust me? Are you safe?" Alex answered sparingly, feeding her breadcrumbs, each message routed through enough relays to make a spy proud. Yet paranoia crept in, cold and precise, pointing out every creak in the floorboards, every shadow beyond the curtains. Just after 2 a.m, the building's hallway light snapped off. A beat later, it flicked back on. Power surge? Or someone testing the circuit? Alex's pulse surged. He remembered the photo, the marble-faced receptionist, the metallic click in that sterile hallway. The empire he had provoked would not stay passive for long. He forced himself to focus. The stolen ledgers were only one layer. Deeper connections still hid behind encrypted partitions on the company's servers. If he could map those relationships, names, dates, offshore meetings, Cheryl would have irrefutable proof. Without it, the story could be strangled before it breathed. Alex accessed a dormant script he had built years earlier, a digital skeleton key designed to pry open proprietary encryption. He whispered a quick apology to his better angels and executed it. Lines of code darted across the screen, seeking weaknesses, replicating handshakes, forging credentials. Sweat traced the curve of his spine despite the chill. After several long minutes, a directory tree bloomed. Inside, private memos, auditing drafts, an innocuous folder labeled Retention. Alex opened it and felt the floor drop. Photographs, transcripts, personal data on dozens of executives, politicians, media figures, material vicious enough to guarantee silence. Barrett Global had not just laundered money, they hoarded secrets as leverage, turning anyone useful into a marionette. His stomach tightened. These were not games played by a petulant heir. Evan Barrett was merely the visible tip of a submerged spear aimed at whoever threatened the dynasty. A file stamped contingencies contained lists of off-site locations, one of them the modest office park he had visited that afternoon. Another sat downtown in an abandoned textiles warehouse. Alex highlighted the coordinates, sent them in an encrypted burst to Cheryl with the note, "You wanted the map. Here's the legend." A chill gust rattled his window. He glanced up and locked eyes with a silhouette on the fire escape. Time thickened, every second a slab of frozen quartz. The figure did not move, only watched. Street lamp glow sketched the outline of a hood, broad shoulders, something glinting at the belt. Alex's heartbeat thrashed. He flicked off his monitor, shoving himself against the wall just as the figure's hand tested the latch. Metal squealed. Move! Now! Alex snatched the flash drive from the tower, stuffed it into his boot, grabbed a jacket, and slipped into the hallway. The building's stairwell stank of cheap paint and damp concrete. He descended in near silence, flinching at each echo his shoes betrayed. Behind him, a soft clang suggested the window latch surrendering. On the ground floor, he eased the exit door open a crack. The street stretched empty except for a cab idling beneath a guttering lamp. He waved it down, voice rough. Union Station. The driver raised brows at the ungodly hour, but nodded. As the cab pulled away, Alex dared a glance back. A dark SUV rolled slowly past his building, headlights shuttered. No sirens, no screech of tires, only silent surveillance. His skin crawled. At the station's round-the-clock coffee stand, Alex ordered the strongest brew available, paid cash, then settled into a plastic seat beneath flickering fluorescence. Commuter boards ticked off early trains, and the faint reek of disinfectant hung in the air. He texted Cheryl on the secure line. They came to my window. Not safe to stay put. Need somewhere neutral. Her reply arrived in under a minute. Get on the northbound at 4:05. Ride 3 stops. I'll meet you on the platform. Grey raincoat, red scarf. Alex closed his eyes, clutching the coffee until warmth seeped into aching fingers. He pictured the silhouette at his window, imagined who might follow him onto the train, onto the platform, into whatever refuge Cheryl promised. Trust was a dwindling currency. Yet without allies, his evidence would die in darkness. Overhead, an announcement droned the arrival of the next departure. Alex rose, shoulders heavy but resolve forged harder than ever. He had crossed a point of no return when he saved that first ledger. Now he walked a wire strung above ravenous depths, knowing each step mattered more than the last. As he queued for the ticket kiosk, his reflection winked from the smudged glass. Gaunt face, unkempt beard, eyes lit with something ferocious, hope or desperation, maybe both. He muttered under his breath, "Old man, wrong place, right fight." The loudspeaker cracked, summoning passengers. Alex tucked the thumb drive deeper into his boot, tightened his coat, and stepped toward the waiting train, unaware of the pair of eyes tracking him from behind a vending machine. The northbound train rumbled like a long metal heartbeat, each wheel thud marking the seconds Alex stole from the men who hunted him. He sank into a corner seat, clutching a stale paper cup of station coffee, and tried to look like any other exhausted commuter. Dawn seeped through the smudged windows, painting the carriage in bruised lavender light. Every reflection in the glass felt like a pair of eyes. A businesswoman scrolling her phone, a teenager nodding to muffled music, a broad-shouldered man 3 rows back reading nothing at all. Alex's gaze snagged on that man's empty lap, the stillness of his hands, the way his eyes flicked upward whenever Alex shifted. Paranoia? Perhaps. Experience urged caution. 3 stops north. That was Cheryl's rendezvous. Alex rehearsed the plan. Step onto the platform, scan for a grey raincoat and red scarf, hand off a decoy drive first, keep the real payload hidden until trust was ironclad. Simple, if anything in his shattered life could be called simple. As the train slowed into the station, Alex's pulse quickened. Doors hissed open, releasing a thin fog of engine heat. He rose, aware of the broad-shouldered man mirroring his movement. Step 1. Exit calmly. He slipped onto the platform, boots clicking on wet concrete, and waited for the telltale swish of the doors closing. But the man stepped out too, casual as sunrise. Alex's throat tightened. He forced himself not to run. 50 feet ahead, between drifting pockets of commuters, hung a slash of red wool over a grey coat collar. Cheryl. Her sharp eyes found him, widened in recognition, then narrowed as she caught the man following close behind. Cheryl pivoted, cutting through foot traffic toward a stairwell. Alex followed, sliding past a cluster of students, buying seconds. Cheryl descended 2 flights into an underground passageway tiled in chipped turquoise. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. At the far end, a maintenance door stood ajar. She slipped inside without breaking stride. Alex ducked after her, tugging the door shut just as footsteps pounded the stairs above. They pressed their backs to the wall, exchanging ragged breaths. "Friend of yours?" she whispered. "Not the friendly kind," Alex muttered. The room smelled of grease and old paper. Cardboard boxes towered around an ancient fuse panel, and a single bare bulb dangled from frayed wire. Cheryl's scarf was bright as a wound in the gloom. She scanned his face, eyes fierce beneath unruly bangs. "You look awful," she said. "Feel worse." She held out a small recording device. "Tell me what you have." Alex produced the decoy thumb drive, placed it in her palm. "Enough to bury him, but there's more. This is only the appetizer." Cheryl slipped the drive into her coat. "Good. My editor wants proof within the hour." Footsteps scraped just outside. The door rattled once, twice, then fell still. Alex's skin prickled. They were cornered mice if discovered. "We need a clean exit," Cheryl said. "Back tunnel connects to the next platform. Follow me." She tugged aside a stack of boxes, revealing a narrow service corridor littered with wires and dust. They moved single file, Cheryl's flashlight beam dancing over rust-flecked pipes. Behind them, the maintenance door groaned open. Heavy boots crunched cardboard. "Hurry!" Alex breathed. The tunnel curved, ending at a ladder that climbed toward a grate. Cheryl ascended first, pushed the grate, and sunlight splashed onto her face. She scrambled onto an empty side platform long shuttered for repairs. Alex followed, muscles protesting. Far below, a train thundered past. Cheryl crouched, pulling him alongside a metal cabinet. Her grin flashed. "Congratulations, hacker! You just survived a tail." Then her smile faded. "But they won't stop." Alex handed her a folded paper map, spotted with ink circles. "These addresses link to deeper blackmail files. If we publish, the company burns, but ignite carefully. They collect secrets for leverage. Whatever we do, they'll retaliate." Cheryl's eyes shone with something between fear and exhilaration. "I've waited years for a story like this." "Stories can kill," Alex warned. A distant shout drifted from the tunnel. Cheryl glanced toward it. Decision hardened her features. "My car is parked 2 blocks east. We separate now. You vanish. I go dark and start the leak." She pressed a slip of paper into his hand, an encrypted chat key. "Ping me once you're safe, and Alex. Thank you." He almost laughed at the word. Instead, he squeezed her wrist. "Be careful." Cheryl vaulted the platform edge, crossing onto a public concourse. Alex watched her melt into commuters, grey coats swallowed by the crowd. Then he turned back, slipping down another staircase towards street level opposite her exit. The key burned in his fist like hot coal. Outside, the morning was in full swing. Buses wheezed, vendors hollered, the world unaware of a war brewing beneath its feet. Alex blended into the flow, boots splashing through puddles. A newspaper stand displayed a headline about market optimism, ironic foreshadowing for the storm to come. He ducked into a shabby diner, ordered tea he would not drink, and claimed a corner booth with a view of the door. With trembling fingers, he unfolded Cheryl's chat key, committing the cipher to memory, then tore the slip into confetti and let the pieces drift into the dregs of his cup. Through the smudged window, he spotted the broad-shouldered tail stalking the sidewalk, phone pressed to ear, scanning faces. Alex's lips curved. The hunter had lost his prey. Today. But nights were long, and Alex knew darker shadows waited after dusk. He would need one more gambit, one final breach, to end this. As he rose to leave, his reflection in the glass looked almost unfamiliar. A man remade by desperation into something dangerously resolute. Tomorrow the world would learn how deep corruption could burrow. Tonight Alex would prepare the torch. Thunder prowled the edges of the sky when Alex checked into a roadside motel a few miles beyond the city limits. The room smelled of bleach and damp carpet, but its single virtue was anonymity. He propped a rickety chair beneath the doorknob, drew the curtains, and opened the battered laptop that had become his lifeline. An encrypted ping from Cheryl flickered across the screen. First piece drops at midnight. Editor wants ironclad proof of blackmail network. Can you deliver more? Midnight was less than 12 hours away. The timer in Alex's mind clicked louder than the storm. He powered up a burner hotspot, fingers trembling as he invoked a suite of scripts he had sworn never to use again. Ghosts from a younger, cockier life. This final breach would dive straight into Barrett Global's vault, the digital heart where Compromat slept behind layers of biometric locks and behavioral firewalls. If he failed, alarms would howl and hunters would descend. If he succeeded, sunlight would pour into every rotten corner. Outside, rain began its slow drum beat. Alex's concentration narrowed until only code existed, an unfolding maze he knew by muscle memory. First wall, bypassed with a forged security token. Second wall, sidestepped by replaying a dormant maintenance key he had lifted a week earlier. Third wall, adaptive heuristic shields that learned patterns in real time. He exhaled, slowed his keystrokes, became unpredictable, a melody without rhythm. Minutes bled into an hour. At last, a single directory blossomed. Personal safes. Inside, folders named for senators, judges, hedge fund giants, and tech rivals. Photos, transcripts, medical files, affairs, addictions, secret children. Every life reduced to leverage. Alex's jaw clenched. He selected all, encrypted them anew, then tunneled the trove through onion relays to Cheryl. Package sent, he typed. Pull the pin. Her reply arrived swift as lightning. Got it. Brace for impact. Alex sagged back, lungs scraping emptiness. For the first time in weeks, a shard of triumph pierced the numbness. He shut the laptop, tucked both drives into a hollowed paperback, and began to pack. He needed distance before the storm he had summoned broke open. The motel lights flickered, died, then blazed once more. A coincidence, or the first ripple of backlash? Alex slung his bag over one shoulder and eased to the window. In the parking lot, a black SUV idled beneath the buzzing sign. Figures inside, silhouettes that did not bother to hide. He hissed a curse, grabbed the chair from the door, and slipped into the corridor. Emergency lights cast sickly halos on peeling wallpaper. He jogged toward the laundry exit, heart hammering. Behind him, a door splintered. Heavy footsteps charged down the hallway. Alex burst into rain-soaked night, vaulted a low fence, and landed in a ditch that stank of weeds and runoff. Mud swallowed his shoes, but he crawled through cattails until he reached the cover of a hedge. Headlights swept past. Voices traded clipped commands, then receded. He stayed crouched until thunder drowned the distant engine. Only then did he draw the burner phone from his pocket and refresh a newsfeed. A crimson banner rolled across the screen. Money, laundering, and extortion. Scandal rocks Barrett Global. Heir taken into custody. Grainy video showed Evan Barrett led from headquarters, wrists cuffed, lips forming silent denials. Cameras flashed, sirens wailed, stock tickers spiraled downward. Alex's chest tightened, not with joy, but with something heavier. Justice had a price, and he had yet to pay it. He thumbed another link, an editorial promising deeper revelations in the morning edition. Cheryl's fingerprints lay beneath every line. A branch snapped. Alex spun. The broad-shouldered man from the train approached, umbrella useless against the torrent, grey suit plastered to muscle. Between finger and thumb, he twirled a silver coin. "Congratulations," the man said, voice smooth as wet stone. "You toppled a petty prince." Alex's fists curled. "Stay back." "I'm not here to harm you. Quite the opposite. My employers admire initiative." The coin danced over knuckles, vanished, reappeared. Barrett Global was a failing asset. "You accelerated our timetable." "Who are your employers?" "A consortium," he answered, smile unfurling. You exposed blackmail files, but you did not open the deepest vault. We require a locksmith with your convictions. Alex shook his head. I'm done. The man stepped closer, rainwater beading on granite shoulders. You misunderstand. This is not an offer. Refuse, and the narrative shifts. You become a disgruntled hacker seeking profit. Evidence can be planted, stories can rewrite themselves. Lightning flared, casting the man's eyes in hollow brilliance. Help us, Alex, and your past vanishes. Freedom, resources, a clean slate for you to rebuild. Think of it as employment. Alex tasted iron on his tongue. He thought of Cheryl hunched over newsroom terminals, believing daylight guaranteed safety. He thought of secrets nesting inside secrets, each darker than the last. What happens if I agree? The man slipped the coin into Alex's palm, cold, heavy. We call when the storm clears. And if I don't? A smile, razor thin. Then the storm never clears. Rain hissed between them. In the distance, police sirens converged on the city, swallowing cheers and curses alike. Alex closed his fingers around the coin, its edges biting flesh, anchoring him to a decision he had not yet made. Under the flicker of motel neon, the man turned away, merging with shadows and storm. Alex remained crouched in the weeds, coin clutched tight, future balanced on a blade so fine it felt invisible. The air had fallen, yet the empire endured. And somewhere within its deepest vaults, doors waited for a key only Alex could forge.